Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. It's Wednesday, March 12th. This is the meeting of the Financial Planning Board. I'd like to do a roll call first. Susan Satori.
Present.
Ken Picard.
Here.
John Ray.
Present.
John Rappa. We have a quorum. Okay, first item on the agenda, public comment. I don't see anyone here in the room. Don't see any hands or any invitees up there. We'll move on from that. Second item on the agenda, approval of meeting minutes from March 11th. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from March 11th as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. All right. Capital budget, did things change since last night?
Yeah,
Jason?
Yeah, let me just make sure everybody can hear me. There were a few items that changed from the last presentation of these numbers. First, I'd call your attention to the one-ton pickup truck with plow that's currently in Article 23. That was reduced by $5,000 in the Public Works Department's request. Likewise, I believe they're buying the same truck under for the water sewer departments, and that.
Excuse me, Jason, you said an article number? Where is it listed with article numbers?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
the-
I'm going from the articles that
This?
were, that you're looking at the draft report where all of the numbers haven't been updated for the articles. The select board closed the warrant on Monday, and we had article numbers from that night. So I used those numbers, so that's what I was referring to.
Okay.
But it's the one-ton pickup truck with plow that was originally $100,000. It's been reduced to $95,000. And likewise, there's a one-ton pickup truck with plow under the DPW Water Sewer Enterprise section. That's reduced from $100,000 to $95,000. And lastly, I believe these numbers are going to be voted at the Regional School Committee tonight, but we discussed some of the changes to the regional assessment, so I've updated their capital number in here. That will be part of their capital, their
So-
capital assessment. That's a portion of their assessment that's voted in their budget article.
What number is that one going to be?
I believe it's going to be Article 7.
You have Article 7 in the package?
No.
Not in this packet.
No,
No,
we just
it-
have Article 18.
Article 7 is their operating budget. I mean, the assessment article.
Okay, so we just don't have it here. So what is the new number?
Oh, it's 7.
7.
Right, no,
Saying the
what's,
dollar amount?
yeah, what's,
The dollar
Oh,
amount.
I'm sorry, it's 107,100, and that's their, I believe they're reducing their budget to 175. These are the numbers that were being discussed. We're going to be pending presentation to the school committee later, so that's our share, the 61.2% share.
okay.
Good, okay. All right.
Question as we go through these, in instances where there is a grant, 'cause some of these have grants that may offset the necessity to use free cash, mechanically, is that returned? Like sometimes, this is where I'm confused and could use your guidance. I'm thinking back to the HVAC here, where we approved something, we didn't, and like it was there, and we're spending less now because we have this money earmarked for it in an account. It's a $1.2 million expense, but we only have like 460 in here. In the case of like a camera for like the police, that was for 65 grand, if that's covered by a grant, mechanically, what happens to that?
Well, we're weighing in on the appropriation amount. So within this document here that drives the pie chart and so forth, we do account for the grant piece separately, but the amount in the article is going to be the amount that needs to be funded from free cash. So we, attempt to be transparent about it and list it out in the article description. And
Yeah.
say this will supplement a $48,000 grant that the town has received.
Yeah, but mechanically, it doesn't stay in like an account earmarked. It would be, at that point, that money would return back to,
Well,
as opposed to the example I gave where the HVAC stayed in that account as a number, and now the ask is, if cash was earmarked for that, is my understanding.
all right, well, so it'll be easier for me if I talk about this like with the specific example
Sure,
of
yeah.
like, say, the cameras that we're talking about. On our capital plan, the CIP, we've listed it as an asset that's $113,656. So as a funding source, a grant is $48,656, and then the balance is $65,000. So when we get down to our description of articles, we'll say this will supplement it, but it'll come into, the accounting will be separate for it, but like, supposing we get one bill from his preferred camera provider, it's for $113,656, he would charge $48,656 to the grant,
Yep.
which would be in a separate fund than the article. The article would be in our capital project fund.
And then if we got the additional grant to cover the other $48,000, he would charge that to the grant, and then the remainder would be the difference that the town would pay.
Yeah, so are you saying that, I didn't hear him say that
I
there's an additional
recollected
grant.
that he had one grant that's secured. He's asking for 65, not 113. And then there's another 48 grand he's applying for. So that net difference would just go back into it wouldn't be, and I guess I'm not, I'm trying to explain as well as I can in a complicated situation. I was surprised when HVAC came that we had this money sitting there earmarked for, because we never spent it back in 2013 or an earlier date, I forget the year.
It was 2000, if you're talking about the HVAC money, that was.
For the town hall.
For the town hall, where there were two articles in 2012. There was a CPA article that was dedicated to fixing the HVAC in this
Yeah.
building, and then there's a balance of that, which was funded from transfers from old capital projects, which were bond proceeds.
Yep.
So the mechanics of that are, when we go to town meeting, we vote transfer from Article 17, bond proceeds from Article 17 of 2000 town meeting or earlier. It was, there was I was actually here in that year, so I was partially responsible for coming up, figuring out what was left in these capital projects and transferring them to a new project.
Yep.
So the mechanics of that are 8 projects or 12 projects or how many there are, the amount left in those articles transfer to the new article. And if there's a supplement from free cash, that free cash will get transferred into that article as well, increase the new article.
Okay.
So it will close out the old articles, and the new article would be made whole by the transfers in plus the free cash allocation, if that makes sense.
Do you have audits where things like that get picked up, or
Well-
outside auditors coming in and taking?
Well,
a look?
annually, we have a CPA firm that audits our
And
financials.
does that stuff pop up in those audits?
Well, they look at all our accounting. I mean, it's not something that
It's not like
pops up.
it's
a
not like
routine-
dug in there and buried, it's,
No, it's a
Yeah.
routine accounting transaction that happens, so
yeah,
they,
okay.
they review them, but,
And have they commented the practice or what was going on in regard to it at all?
well, if we had old articles on our books for years, I'm sure they'd comment on that, because that's a typical problem that a lot of towns have, is closing out old articles.
Okay.
Right. And I guess what I'm really getting at is any tax impact is going to be calculated on the dollar values that we're going to vote on in town meeting, and then there'll be we actually spend.
So the tax impact numbers would be calculated based on appropriations from the tax levy.
Yeah.
So something from free cash would be there's obviously an opportunity cost to money from your retained earnings or your leftover free cash. Is, a lot of people from the business world don't like the name, but it basically means retained earnings, your money in your fund balance. So there's an opportunity cost to using it for, say, a truck rather than just, reducing the operating budget or something like that.
Yeah,
But-
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a calculation that could be made, but we typically don't do that calculation because it's money on hand, it's current resources.
Oh, sorry.
Starting on page 52, the respective articles, have you noted for each or as many of these where the funding source is coming from, Jason? So the first one is Article 15, for example, the police cruisers,
Yes.
body cameras.
Yeah.
Page 61 talks about where the funding source. It's a more condensed list. The article numbers are
I hear you, but my
different.
question was, from the first draft I did,
Oh,
do these reflect the current thinking about where the source of those would come from?
Yes.
Fine, thank you.
So,
With the exception of what would be funded with debt from what is not available from free cash.
Okay.
So,
the distinction hasn't been made, is that correct? Like you just put free cash down unless it was coming from another outside revenue source other than debt?
correct, because, so this is my thinking, and I'm not sure this is confirmed as a policy decision, but none of these numbers should continue to change, with the exception of not knowing the grants that are involved in the streetscape project. That project's also the largest of all of them in the capital plan this year. So if something has to be proposed as a debt authorization, that's what I was recommending, and will
Okay.
probably turn out as being the source when we work through this as the policy decisions that get made by the administrator when we present the budget on the 24th. That's my recommendation. So the merits of doing that would be not to incur more debt, but if there's grants coming, it would allow us, the debt authorization would allow us the ability to sign a contract to do the work that's contemplated under there, so we could move forward with it. And then we would have a year to settle what the grant amounts are going to be.
So that's cash management.
Right.
Before we get started, I just want to ask, page 52, municipal departments, Article 15. And this particular page, the article numbers are not supposed to match up at this point on these?
Looks like they weren't adjusted yet.
Okay,
So
all right. But we're
disregard the
going
left
with
column.
this.
We're going with this. Disregard the
Right,
left
so
column on the latter
Article
pages.
15 was the most recent warrant draft that
Okay.
was for the closed warrant.
Okay,
So some of the ones at the end, I didn't get all the way to the end to change that table.
okay, I'm just wanting to make
But
sure I'm
that's
looking
why
at the
it's
right
different,
thing.
yeah.
And as we go through this, where there's differences, we'll so note it, okay? Yeah. All right, so we start with 52, Article 15.
can we go back to one of your comments?
Yeah, please.
All right. You asked about on the report, it is listed as a bullet point about the funding source, right? I would think it'd be great to keep it there, but also in your spreadsheet, having a cell that would say funding source like this one does on the top. You know, you have the article number, the sponsor, cost, funding source, priority, recommended approval.
Saying you want to add another column?
Yeah,
Well, this is a recap. The latter pages are recaps.
well, I'm hopefully, when somebody reads this, they can quickly see what it is.
Yeah.
Without, I'm just trying to make it as easy as we can. Would be my recommendation, since we're talking about the report.
I understand that we, as a group, do not decide the funding source, that that's going to be up to the town administrator and you working together to decide that. So how are we supposed to feel if we don't care for the funding source? Are we going to just have to vote against something that we like, but we don't like how it's being funded? Like, we want to see it come to the town, but not in the form of free cash or
But this is
debt.
our report, it's a recommendation report.
Right.
Right, so the select board have the, they're in charge of the warrant. they can do what they want, but they're asking for our recommendation, the town is asking for our recommendation. I think we should be very clear in our recommendation, this should be the funding source.
Case in point, 2 years ago, there were 2 warrant articles. There was a pumper and a tight tank at the DPW garage. It was a total of $1.7 million, I think. We and appropriations, both committees recommended that ARPA funds be used for that, and the select board overruled us and went to debt.
But so it
That's
read-
their job, though, right? That,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
understand that.
Yeah,
I
so that
understand.
read in the report debt, but then you had a page that said you did not recommend the funding source?
I have to
Right,
think
that-
back, but I think in the
I
bottom
remember
of the
there being,
report-
sorry, John, I remember there being an explanation with a commentary of what you thought. You still recommended passing the article
Right.
in those 2 cases,
Right.
even though it was a debt authorization, and the committee as a whole disagreed with that. But you saw merit in the articles themselves
Yes.
and recommended passing the articles. But you
Correct.
did make a commentary that you would like both appropriations and financial planning made a commentary that they would have preferred them be funded through ARPA.
So we will see that in the body of this table, if that's something that we
If
decided on?
the body as a whole,
Yeah, okay.
decides that, or wants additional
Right.
commentary.
If the
that-
majority vote is they would prefer to have debt for something versus free cash, it will at least have that recommendation in here, even though
Mm-hmm.
the town administrator is putting it forward in a different way.
Right,
Okay,
right, so.
as long as we're clear on that.
Yeah, well, we're recommending, right? It's just I want to be as clear about our recommendations.
Well, the body as a whole has the ability to offer a nuanced opinion. You're going to offer a vote of whether you recommended passing something or passing an article or not, but you also have the ability of putting something in your report that recommends something else.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
All right. Article 15, police body cameras, cloud storage, $65,000. Priority 1, there's a couple of dot points in here on that. There's a supplemental grant received for $48,006, and this is to be funded by free cash with no additional tax impact. Any other questions, comments on that?
Is it appropriate to have on Article 15 that we are applying for a supplemental grant for an additional $48,656? We have one received and one that the chief is applying for.
Well, we can definitely find out if there's clarity. I honestly, I don't remember that conversation about something that was up.
I recall him saying he will be applying for a grant.
Will be.
Will be,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
That's a future.
That's future.
Yeah,
So I don't know how people can make a decision on something that may or may not happen.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't see it in the report. I went to the camera section and I don't see it there printed, so I think we would have to have a follow-up.
I'll have to follow up
Yeah,
with
if
the
you
chief
would,
on that, because honestly, that got by me, that comment got by me, but I thought we had secured a 48,000
Yeah, he
grant.
definitely
and-
said he had that,
We
yeah.
have one in the bank, and there's one that he's hoping can offset the majority of the
Yeah,
costs.
he was
that we will-
hoping to submit one and get,
That he felt pretty good about.
yeah, he felt very good about it. He was told, oh, yeah, you have a good chance, but that's,
Okay, well,
so-
we should ask and find out the timeline for that.
So the worst-case scenario would be if this money got appropriated into the article, it would tie it up, but we would also be able to close it out at the end of the year, the difference.
Yeah,
And it would become part of next year's free cash.
yeah.
Any other comments on 15? We go to 16. Police cruiser replacement. The chief was requesting 3 for a total of $175,000 with a priority 2. And he did say last night he could live with 2 and push the detective's car out a year, and that would take $40,000 off of this.
that's what I'm recommending.
I would, since he said he was willing to push his plan out a year, I would like to see that done.
So Jason, mechanically, does the article go to the select board and the town meeting as is, and we would add language to it recommending kicking it down 40,000?
I mean, I think you would have the ability to put that in the report that you recommend passing the article, but you would like to see it reduced.
So the top line is 175 in the report, right? Okay?
Yeah, so I mean, I think you have to vote on whether you're going to support an article for 175 or not. And you could support passing it with the nuance that you would like to see it
What about, could we clarify? I don't know how the process, how rigid the process is. Could we clarify with the chief that we're going to just put the 2 police cruisers in and not the detective car and change the dollar value of it?
Well, again, it's up to the select board to set the warrant, and he's put forward a warrant article that's been put on the warrant for 3 cruisers. If,
What are our options for amending it? Only at town meeting floor?
yeah.
No, well, it can be in the motion.
Yeah,
The
I mean-
motion that's the select board right, it can be done in that.
So the selectmen could agree with our recommendation and then go to town meeting and present this as an amended warrant article?
Right.
This is a
Okay.
naive question, but based on where we're in the process, why couldn't the select board choose to change it right now?
Yeah, so I'm trying to clarify when we need to be final with the numbers, because there's a lack of clarity between the final budget presentation and posting the warrant. Like, I don't think we can change it after the 24th, but if he's going to change the number, I mean.
Yeah,
if-
that's
if
why
the-
I feel like we have time.
If with your feedback, the police chief is changing his article, I think we can do that still.
That's,
So I don't, with the posting of the warrant, it goes out to the public, it has to be put publicly out for
Right,
everybody to
right.
view it. I forget, there is a timeline where you still can amend it, but it's very short. Again, going back to the process, it'd be better if we had our report to the selectmen before they posted a warrant. So we could have, this is how we feel.
Yeah, well, April 14th
Because
is
they're
the
really going
deadline to
forward with
post
our
the warrant.
recommendation.
but,
That's the way I view it.
Right.
That's why we pushed to try to do this earlier and earlier, so you had
No, I
some wiggle
understand.
room
I
to
understand.
work
I-
these
no, I
issues
understand.
out.
I understand the process, it's
Yeah.
just, we're trying to get a good recommendation in, and they're acting before they even get the recommendation.
well, and I think that's a really smart point. I think the thing that, what we heard and we should confirm, is that through the conversation regarding the needs of this particular department, it was agreed upon, and we should confirm that's true, that we should amend the value. Now, the question is, from a process perspective, what prevents us from really doing that right now? And what connectivity do we have with the select board to get our feedback into not just the warrant language, but the conversations that we have here, which the select board isn't,
I think it's a process issue.
Yeah.
And it's an authority issue, because the budget is actually the town administrator's budget.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she has put forward these warrant articles to the Board of Selectmen that have voted on it. So she would want to, she might have to bring to them, this is a recommendation, or,
I think we need to clarify with the
What
police
the
chief
process
if
is.
he's going
Yeah.
to, if he's going to amend his request.
Yes.
okay.
Because that was, I
And then
I was
find out what
surprised
we're
to
gonna
hear
do
he said
next.
he didn't need all 3. so.
Well, I think it was just using some financial discipline to say that he could wait a year.
But I think we're going to run into this as we go along here,
Yeah.
so we got to figure out how it gets done. But by our meeting on Monday, we'll have a better idea, it'll be defined as to what the
So
process
we're
is.
going to vote on Monday, not today, but I'm going to clearly say, I support the police chief in the articles, right, in getting his cruisers. But I'm going to vote no on this if it says 3 vehicles for 175, because he clearly said he could go to 2. And if that's the only leverage I have, then it's no.
I believe that I would probably do the same thing. That's why I think it would be great to have clarification, because I'd rather vote it for
It
something.
would be great to get it updated, reflective of the work that we've done
Right.
as our role, and to have an updated one and maybe not overcomplicate it and get the dollar, and it's a simpler thing to vote on, it's more accurate with confirmation of the conversations we had.
Yes,
So I'd like to see us put language in an article where we're kicking something down like that, and maybe a separate recap page which says, for the following articles, we recommend da, 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 da.
And I have heard before where a number's been presented, and I've heard, and I don't remember the details, someone saying, it says $65,000 here, but I'm recommending 40. I just forget the details. So I think it's not, I think we can, it'd be interesting to see the alignment we have and the mechanics which we do it, but the easiest thing to do is just to have it updated based on the work we've
Yeah, I
done.
think to start off, cleanly is better. You can modify the motion, the
Yeah.
select board can modify the motion, and if they don't modify the motion, the reader of the article can change it there if he chooses. He just has to give it into the moderator in writing.
And I would say,
But it's not clean.
To the
You know,
select-
It's not clean, it's more confusing.
to the select board's request that we lump some of these together, I'd have a lot more confidence if we had the inputs correct and lumping them together and helping them meet their objective.
Yeah, because otherwise it's crazy.
Otherwise, we're going to lose track.
No.
Yeah.
I think you're bringing up a good point. The way they want to put them all together is going to make it even more confusing with the way we're also tackling, trying to.
Unless our
we-
feedback gets in and we get to agreement prior.
We know we have a few exceptions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So, any more comments on 16?
No,
Priority 2? Okay.
That's
17, the ambulance replacement, fire department, $550,000, priorities 1 and 2.
I'm sorry, John. I think you took notes on this, but we do have comments on 16 to get it to 2 cars and a lower dollar value, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, I got that. So 17, the ambulance replacement, proposed to be funded by debt with debt service to be paid by the ambulance revolving fund with no additional tax impact. Any further comments on that? We okay with the priorities?
In our priority, I'm going to remind myself, we're using
There's a table.
the old priorities or the new one.
The top?
Yeah.
No, disregard the bottom for now.
Okay.
We might just throw that out, but
Yeah.
yes. Okay. So any other comments on 17?
no,
Okay, moving on. Page 53, number 18. Personal protective equipment for the fire department, $165,000, priority 1, funded from free cash, no additional tax impact. In conversations with the chief Parenti last night, I did hear him say that he could live with less of these in year 1, but the select board was pushing him to get a full set, so
I-
24.
Through the chair, I believe he said he could go. He has a system that he's used for a number of years, and he'd be more than confident that that system would still work for him, and he could fund his PPEs appropriately for his department. He wouldn't get them all 28.
Right.
But he has a system where he schedules replacement.
Rotation, yeah, replacement.
So the long term is if we buy all 28 now, in 10 years, we're going to be buying 28 more.
Right.
Right, so it's another huge number.
Yes.
Where if you systematically purchase them, it's not such a big hit.
And-
It only makes most sense.
And the way that I read the compliance language was we are in compliance. It's January 1, 2027. So when I read to be in compliance, I don't see this as a compliance issue. I see it as, I see we are in compliance.
I see it as you're a family and you've got 10 kids in the family, and you're getting ready for somebody's wedding, and you buy 8 of them a new suit and the other 2 you don't. So you buy everything new, and that was the rationale that kind of I heard from the select board. And I don't think the chief is the least bit bothered with staying with his own
System.
system.
This
Yes.
Senate bill is to eliminate equipment that has PFAS and chemicals in it.
Right.
That's what the compliance is.
That's right. And it's so anything acquired after January 1st, 2027
It's
is
got to
compliance.
be PFAS-free.
Yeah, the language has nothing to do with replacing your existing equipment, it's the
Right.
purchases.
Right.
Yep. I feel that we have to start to think about ways that we can save money this year and the next year. And we've had 2 department heads say that they are willing to make a change to the way they do things. And this wasn't even his plan. It was a request from the Board of Selectmen. He works for them. I see why it's there. I just don't agree with the suggestion.
Well, do we want to suggest kicking this in half?
No, I want to
I want to
suggest
see
he
him to go
stay
back
with
to
his
his system.
plan.
Totally.
Wait, one second.
plan.
Susan?
I want to stay with, him to be able to stay with his plan.
So the full set of suits.
No, his plan of how he buys suits over time.
So basically, you would be voting to.
Against
to-
this.
No.
To vote
Okay.
no on this article.
And,
I'm voting no.
I think you're going to get a lot of no's,
all right,
Just go
perhaps
back-
unanimous.
Yeah, just the chief has a system that works. He's very comfortable with it. Let's utilize that.
I mean, this is not the time to be spending more cash, spending more debt. It's learning to put a little bit aside for
Fine,
some
okay.
things that just pop up.
I'm with you, okay.
And I guess the question that we're talking around is, does he have the mechanics to do this without being a capital project, can he do this under $25,000? I don't know.
Like-
I mean, it's hard to say.
My
He's
gut
saying-
says no, but
Yeah.
depending on how many he's buying
So
next time.
28, is he buying 28 for 165? He said he buys
That-
3 or 4 a year.
Right.
So,
I
don't know.
believe,
Assuming
I
things
asked him
go
the
up
question
also,
last
John.
night, it seemed as if he had some kind of line item within his operational budget to be able to do this. Is
That's what I-
that correct?
That's what I
Right,
heard.
there's a capital outlay line within
Okay,
this budget.
yeah,
All right.
he's set.
Okay. All right, anything else on 18? 19?
So 19, I'm going to recuse myself?
Yes?
Okay, so I'm just going to not leave the room this time. Just going to back away.
Back out, okay.
So it's the town office's HVAC upgrades, it's $470,000, it's requested by DPW facilities, it's priority 1 and 2, funded from free cash. And they
I
have
just, I'm
critical
sorry.
deficiencies.
But 18 is not priority 1.
Safety?
It involved correcting a current safety or health issue and to meet a federal or state legal requirement. We don't have a safety or health issue, and we're compliant with the federal or state legal requirement. I don't see that as being,
I kind of agree with you on that. What do you want to say instead?
I think it has to do with growth of maybe the existing firefighters in a long-term plan, but it's not, I don't think it's a 1. Maybe it's a 3. Because we have the 8 safer firefighters that presumably are going to be hired.
Maybe, could it be 3 that are required to increase capacity of existing facilities? It's not facilities, it's equipment, in order to accommodate the increase in growth in the town.
Yeah, I'd do a 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
Or design, modernize, and upgrade existing things.
So we'll change it to 3, how's that?
Sounds good.
18, all right?
All right.
All right, 19, we're not done yet. You
That
can-
was-
you can,
we went back to the last
Catch the
one.
breeze in the hall, Mr. Picard. No, so we're back to 19, the town office's HVAC. Again, funded for free cash, $470,000, priorities 1 and 2.
I'm totally in support of this.
I guess my question is, any further questions or information we want to put into this dialogue box? John, any thoughts?
I mean, it's not, yeah, right, it's not representative of what we're really doing. We're spending $1.2 million, of which we have cash allocated to it. So it's if we did not do this, would we keep that money in there forever? Or we'd have a plan to actually return that money?
Well, it would have to be applied to another like project.
Yeah,
At-
which
at this point.
HVAC stuff, we just had like projects that were approved last year, HVAC for police stations, and we had a bunch. And schools, like, I guess the question, the cost is accurate, I think. I mean, I don't know, I'm not an expert in this field, but I'm not sure that the bullet points really reflect the conversations we've had.
Current systems beyond its useful life, the heating and ventilation fail to meet recommended air quality standards and are at risk of failure. There was some further dialogue in the actual warrant about, this being potentially a sick building.
Yeah, no, mine's strictly cost, has nothing to do with the need. Not debating 1 or 2.
So John, would you want us to include the information about the prior articles that are supplementing this, or?
I think it's more
this is
accurate.
Supplementing?
I think it's like, we have, the cost is $1.2 million, of which we have approved it, blah, 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 this dollar value will be applied to it.
I think that's,
That's easily added to.
yes. Okay. I think that we ought to consider the fact that there are no plans to move out of this building anytime soon.
Please, yes. I think the more we can have that documented, because it's a moving target, all the stuff is, so
Yeah.
I would like that.
I think we need to say that in here.
Yeah, we had a specific conversation, and said, we plan to be here for 10-plus years. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And like, I agree with you.
The system's life has more than a useful life of 10 years, but definitely we're going to be using it for more than 10 years in
Right.
this
Yeah.
building.
Yep.
You get my drift?
I totally get your drift.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Won't be the first time we spent $1.2 million to move the next year.
Mr. Picard, would you like to join us again? Article 20, road improvements and maintenance from the Highway Department, $310,000, a priority 2, funded from free cash. This is part of a regular road improvement expenditure that they have every year. And it's in accordance with the town's pavement management plan. So they know every street, the condition it's in, it's got a grade, a ranking, and they know on a priority basis what they're going to be needing to fix in the coming year.
I think there has been a goal from the highway department to have a particular grade, try to move up when you can. So this is at least allowing them to stay at the same grade that they have been doing. And I think that should be mentioned there, because to decrease it means we decrease the grade of the
roadways, yeah.
The roadways, yeah.
So it's only going to cause more painful costs future down the road.
Yeah. It's not like increasing something and making it better, it's just increasing other areas.
Would you like to add the bullet point? I know our roadway management plans, we need to spend 1.1 million to maintain current standards, and 550 is our Chapter 90 allocation. We've written letters to the state requesting they increase that over time. 550 here, 300,000 is funded through the operating budget, so that's how we get to the 1.1
Yep.
million. That's, as the years progress, thank you. As the years progress, I think that's inflated slightly to cover inflation through.
Okay, can we put something like that in there?
Yes.
Okay, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I mean.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know how long we want to make this
No,
report, but it's.
You can get to the gist of it, but yes, I think that people
But I mean,
understand.
that's important
Because
context.
there's a prior section early on in the report with some dialogue about each article. So maybe, does what we've been discussing about these belong there as opposed to within this text box? Yes or no?
I don't think it hurts to have it in every place, because sometimes some people just sit with these kinds of things in front of them instead
Right.
of reading the
Okay.
context.
All right. All right, anything else
Try to
on,
teach all different kinds of learners in the room.
anything else on 20? 21, drainage sidewalk improvement program from the highway department, $300,000 of priority one, funded from free cash, no additional tax impact. Repair and replacement of failing drainage and sidewalk infrastructure.
Saw no reason to not do this.
I'm okay with it.
All right, moving right along. 22, on the top of page 54. 20-ton dump truck with spreader and plow replacement. DPW is to request $360,000 of priority two, funded from free cash. To replace a 2005 model that's experienced significant structural deterioration, becoming increasingly costly to maintain.
Every year, I feel like people think we're buying Tonka trucks, and we have a highway department that likes to play with yellow trucks. I look at it from a different point of view. I feel that these are the pieces of equipment that keep that department running. It's heavy in equipment and not as heavy in personnel. We've got a lot of equipment in both the fire and the police, but it's a lot of personnel. I think that we know that we're getting the requests of things that are needed to continue to fix the things that are broken in town, keep the roadways safe, and keep our roads clear in the wintertime. That's the way I look at it. So I don't find any big question in any of these, but I know people will question
I
them.
think the counterpoint to that was, if you look back to 2024 and the conversations we had with the department head, there was a request for a $360,000 hook and ladder truck that was utility truck.
Hook truck.
Hook truck.
Hook truck.
Thank you. A hook truck that had a bunch of cool stuff on it that could do it. We were able to not buy that, decide we were going to apply that money to the police station, and then I asked Scott directly, how come that's not on here? And he said, well, I thought it'd be cool, but the guy said it would be a pain in the butt to change the stuff. That's a red flag, and I think we need to be more diligent. We need to understand the shape of these trucks. We need to see the trucks. There's not enough discipline. It's the biggest line item we see, and it's uncovered. And for Scott to come here and advocate for it, and then to have that comment, is a big concern.
Okay,
So
and
we-
I would understand why you would be concerned, but I wonder if, because it all happened, it's a learning experience, and so we're more conservative now.
I didn't have learning experience. I had to ask a question. I heard that no one really examines these budgets very closely, and they get what they want. And I'm not saying they have too much, but I'm saying there's not enough discipline and accountability when
Okay.
we do this.
All right,
So we have 81
Alan?
miles of road in this town. And a 20-ton dump truck is the biggest one they're asking for. It's probably one of the biggest trucks in the fleet. And covers multiple functions, but it also has a spreader and a plow for the winter. The existing one is got problems. He showed us some pictures, if you noticed what we had the other night.
Was it representative or was it the pictures of it?
Sure looked like the pictures of it.
I think I
the
just used the
underside.
word representative or not.
I don't remember.
I guess one thing that I'd like to say right here now, in regard to this conversation also, is that at that night, we did not ask, is there anything in here that you think you don't really need or you could put off a year? We asked the two
Right.
chiefs last night, maybe we should ask, is there something you can go without this year, and see what the answer is?
I seem to recall there
First
is a
member
distinction.
connection rod, frame rail, front frame rail rod, John.
And it was a picture of it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
So I seem to recall there being an explanation last year, given that the hook lift truck was an enhancement, that it was a piece of equipment that wasn't replacing anything else that they had currently. I think Scott's approach of, I mean, he put that forward, it was, I think he disclosed that it was a new piece of equipment that they wanted, and I think you took from what he said that he didn't necessarily need it. That's obviously, like, a need is debatable for an enhancement, but I believe these are all replacements as to distinguish the difference between those two.
Totally agree.
And I think Scott came forward with an enhancement request. The needs at the police station were uncovered, and I believe he very quickly wanted to meet the needs of the police station, and retracted that request.
Right.
But, I mean, there may have been some underlying concerns, like the guys didn't want it anyway, so.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's just kind of the diligence, and I think that, like, it is a big budget, it comes, we take pride in our roads. And to Susan's point, like, can we start talking about getting another year out of a one-ton utility truck? And like, it's just more of a mindset, as opposed to, because we do have extra trucks than people, and we have a fleet that serves the town in a lot of variety of ways. But it's the question that, I think if we were to do that now, we would ask that question.
Yes,
We
I
would
do.
start, we would be more
I do.
direct.
So do we want to ask him that question?
What's the question again?
Is there anything that you think you could defer a year?
I asked him on this, he said he could defer this,
Which one?
the 20-ton dump truck.
Oh.
I think-
You knew what we were going to ask, huh?
You asked on
I
your own?
asked Scott, yes, I did.
Oh, anything else you asked that we're not purview? That since I mean,
What his golf handicap is?
what is it?
Not allowed to
Strike me
share,
as a golfer.
not allowed to share that. No, looking at some of the bigger numbers, I'm saying, where do we have some squish room? And if someone if we get pushed and pinched on stuff, what could you push off?
And so which one is it?
22.
22? Okay. That's a
It's the
big,
oldest piece of equipment.
It's the oldest, it's also the single largest line item number for that department.
And I think we do buy top of the line. These trucks have a lot of wear and tear. I'm not debating that. We do buy top of the line. We're buying trucks that are meant to have a strong, useful life. So
Yeah, I know, I mean, I know, again, I'm not prepared to speak about the details of it because I only recall them in discussion, but I know Scott has a pretty in-depth, he'll reassign the use of a truck from being the front line, shiny truck to being the one that's like carrying
Dirty
around
duty.
the hot patch or
yeah,
stuff by the end of its life. And
All right.
I see a lot of them up my way.
Anything else on 22? 23, one-ton utility truck with plow for the highway department, $95,000. Priority 2, funded from free cash. Placing an existing 2012 truck. Not expected to pass state inspection, significant body and chassis deteriorations. Appropriation includes costs for repurposing other fleet vehicles as part of the town's vehicle management program. The new truck will be assigned to the highway superintendent. I think you recall that conversation when Scott was in here last week.
I get a little bit confused on a truck that's not going to pass state inspection that we're going to use for alternative municipal use. Unless it's just going to be in the DPW's yard driving around, but I can't imagine you can drive that on Route 20 and exit the DPW if it can't pass state inspection. I have a basic, I really do think that we should go on site and look at these trucks.
Well, John, we did last year. We
Yeah.
went to several departments last year.
Did you go and check out all the trucks?
We didn't go to DPW, we went to police and the fire department, and we went to PC school.
You did hear what I said. I'm asking about DPW. and
We
you
did
answered
not
my
go to
que-
DPW.
Okay, just make sure you're answering the question I'm asking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We did not go.
Okay, I didn't think we did, but John made a representation we did, so I wasn't sure.
I mean, until Jonathan brought up a really good point about how we look at this, I was in support of all of them, so I don't have a problem with Article 23.
Yes, so just going back to 22 for a second, the narrative is that it's potentially unsafe for continued use, so I'll follow up with Scott based on his
Okay.
comments.
All right. I think that would be
This-
a good
I mean,
thing.
we have to square that we can defer the purchase with potentially unsafe.
Okay.
Right, and I'd also like to understand how we can't pass state inspection, but we can repurpose the vehicle to drive around.
This vehicle will be repurposed for another use such as a chassis-mounted liftgate.
On Article 23?
Yes, the one-ton pickup, the existing one.
The 23?
Article 23, yes, John.
But to John's point, it only can stay in the yard, right? Because if it can't pass state inspection, it can't go on the highway,
Right.
right?
I just don't understand, I'm having a really hard time understanding the write-ups versus, and so it would be useful to get a better,
Okay.
If you're going to be talking to him about 22, do you mind asking him about a clarification about 23?
Yeah, no problem. Ask him about this one too.
Thank you.
Okay. 24, one-ton dump truck for the highway department, $260,000, priority two, funded from free cash. Purchase a new asphalt hot box to be mounted on an existing 2016 chassis whose dump frame is in poor condition. Additionally, provides the purchase of a new F600 dump body with a plow to replace the deteriorating dump frame. So it's a dump body, plow, and an asphalt hot box.
I have to read this one carefully. I wasn't a truck kid. It's more of dolls.
No yellow Tonkas?
No. To be mounted, it provides for the purchase of a new,
A new F600.
so what are we buying again? What provides for, is this for a new F600 dump body?
Yes, dump body and a plow, and then an asphalt hot box will be mounted on an existing 2016 chassis.
So we buy a one-ton dump truck with a plow on it, we take something off that truck on the back and
And
put
put
it
it on
somewhere
another
else.
one, yep.
That's to your point.
Yeah, that's the repurposing
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
that he goes through.
Any other questions on 24?
Nope.
No? Okay, 25, Assabet Hill Drainage and Roadways, $100,000, a priority one. Funds for engineering services to refine the construction cost estimates for future funding requests. It's funding, not finding.
Just, I guess I do have a question, and I apologize for being slower than the rest of the team here. The truck, when I hear 2016 chassis, I'm hearing that the truck is a 2016 truck, and there's things you can take on, put on the truck, right? So, am I reading that right?
I think what it means is it's going to purchase
So,
the hot box, which will be mounted on a vehicle that's being moved down in the rotation to.
Right.
And then we'll purchase a new truck to replace the one that had the,
So that 2016 truck has a dump frame. The new one's replacing it,
yes,
but they're taking the dump frame off the 2016 and they're putting a new asphalt hot box on it.
yes.
It's a beat-up truck. It's a tough workhorse truck, Scott said.
Yeah,
that
and
clear,
and
John?
I think so, and it's 9 years old?
Yeah.
I think so, right?
No, eight-ish,
years old?
eight-ish, yeah.
Eight-ish, and then, oh, wait, and, Yeah, that's a good question. I wonder when it was acquired. Did Scott provide the miles on all his trucks?
Yeah,
There's a vehicle
fleet list.
recap he gave us
I
a
didn't
week or
bring
two
it
back.
with me.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I think I just would be interested to see, it would help my learning and understanding. I'm a visual learner. It would also help me just get an appreciation of the conditions of the trucks.
Would there be value to posting a meeting to visit the Public Works garage?
Did we go or not,
See if we could-
did we go or not go to see DPW yet?
we did not.
We did not,
yet.
so, I would.
There is a
No.
inventory that he provided us.
Yeah,
Actually, before he said anything, I was going to say, at the very least, you could ask to have a tour.
Yeah.
To take a look.
It'd be great. Yeah, I would love to go with the inventory list and the tour and square it up and see if, and get a sense of,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're asking good questions.
And it's got to happen
They're thoughtful.
fast if that's the case, because we've got times of,
I live a mile away, so that's
Here it
really
is.
convenient.
so here's a list he gave us as of
just
February
steps in.
25th. Does that look familiar?
I just gotta get it closer. Let's see, model year 2016. Yeah, again, it would be useful because there's a lot of inventory here, not being an expert at trucks, it makes it a little bit not. I mean, I'm trying to understand, what model is this? Does it have a model? So see, there's models here, but there's no model here, so it actually becomes a little difficult to actually understand. I mean, you probably, where is it on that?
No, I don't. But I mean, there's X amount of trucks here. So,
There are.
you know, it's
If you can
like
find
they're
it,
lost in the,
it's a lot.
yeah.
So I was just trying to use 2016. I mean, you imagine this, like, none of us, we're trying to make sense of information, so to make these big financial decisions is hard. But if you look at 2016 model, I kind of looked at that as a starting point. I just don't know if it's a 350, I don't know.
The bigger ones, the higher the number, the bigger the truck.
Yeah, I thought,
556s, 600s are more heavier,
yeah,
heavy-duty trucks.
yep.
Yeah.
Which I would assume this would to be. But you didn't find it on there?
I think it's confusing, too, trying to figure out and pay attention and understand how they're taking old pieces and adding new pieces, and it's a jigsaw puzzle.
It is, yeah.
Number 9, flatbed Ford F-350, 2016,
How much would we buy it for?
54,000,
When was it put into use?
2016.
Was put in use, or was another column, was put in use the same way it was acquired? We got it
Acquired, year acquired, 2016,
in models 2016 as well?
yeah. Mileage, 57,000. All right. Assabet Hill.
Yes, so the police chief said that he could adjust his capital request, but he would be requesting 3 the next year and 3 the year after that, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did say that, yeah?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, good stuff.
Forgot his
again-
sacrifice.
Page
Just-
54.
We'll just amend it to two cruisers.
That'd be great.
I mean, I think
knock-
he's, I
knock it
think,
down
I think
40,000.
he's amending his capital
And
request.
Jason, knock it down 40,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, Assabet Hill drainage, page 54, spilling on 55. $100,000, priority 1, funded from free cash. Engineering services to refine construction cost estimates for future funding requests. The 2019 evaluation attributed roadway drainage and manhole problems to the poor original construction. And I believe Scott mentioned that this would give us a plan to eventually replace those culverts and drainage and roadways in at least the following year, if not subsequent years. Any questions on that?
Sounds like a mess up there.
Yeah, I drove up there once last year, and there's parts of the roadway are sinking, there's just some sinkholes and stuff. Can we move to 26, Article 26? One-ton pickup with a plow, DPW, water and sewer, 95,000, priority 2. Funded from water and sewer free cash, does that sound right, Jason?
What's that?
Article 26?
I remember that one. He said one was funded from water and sewer and one was funded from,
Oh, yeah, this is the.
But the dot point says funded from water sewer free cash?
Correct,
Something doesn't
yeah.
sound, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so generally, the vehicles, they're used by the same employees, and there's a cost share, that allocation that we have for the water and sewer enterprise funds, 60/40. So 60% would come from water free cash, and 40% would come from sewer free cash.
all in the town of Northborough, no cost share with Marlboro or anything, right? It's within our town.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's Northborough's asset, yeah.
Okay, so this is a second one-ton pickup. One is for highway department, one is for water and sewer. 95,000, he kicked us down from 100K. Any questions on this or comments?
Could you remind me, the priorities were done by, initially, was it passed by you or was it done by the department heads?
The committee assigned the priorities, I believe.
Which
Yeah.
committee?
This committee assigned the priorities in our report. Is that your question?
Not the ones that we're looking at right now. We didn't-
I missed something, I'm sorry.
There's these priorities right now?
Yeah.
If there's numbers, where did those come from?
In the draft I put together, I put them in there.
Okay, yeah, that was the question.
Yeah,
Just trying
sorry,
to
I put
understand the
them in
source.
there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
On the first draft, yeah. And again, if we disagree with that, then let's change it,
Yeah.
like we did on one of
Yeah,
the
just
first
trying to
ones.
understand
No, no,
what the
the genesis of it, yeah. Okay. So priority 2, yes? On Article 26, yeah? Okay. 27, repair, replace water main bridge supports, the DPW Water Department, $650,000, priorities 1 and 3. Bridge supports the southern segment of Otis Street at Hopbrook, Lawrence Street at Walmart, and the School Street crossing at Assabet River. Funded from debt with debt service to be paid from the Water Enterprise Fund with no additional tax impact.
Do we remember the breakdown of, I remember this conversation, pieces of it, of what would fall under 1 and versus 3, the cost share on it? Because it's a pretty, so,
Come
there's
back on
a
page-
priority 1 and 3, and my assumption, if I recall correctly, some of the things listed here are 1s because they need to be addressed, like, it's an issue, safety issue, right? We need to address it. And then 3, which is a lower priority, and they're kind of just put together with the names of the streets. Do we know what, of the $650,000, how much is categorized as a 1, and how much is categorized
We
as a 3?
do not. He did not articulate that, no. Any other questions on 27?
I think maybe, I mean, if I were to hazard a guess, I don't know this to be absolutely true, but I think it would fall under both of those explanations. I think, I don't know what percentage is which. I know there was, this is I think it's School Street, if I'm thinking
Yeah.
correctly. The culvert's failing, and they're gonna need to replace it, so they're gonna replace this, and, I may be misremembering this part, but there's another culvert in town where I think they would proactively replace the utility.
That goes under a bridge, it's a support for that.
Correct, yeah.
Specific street, there is a narrow bridge that goes into a neighborhood.
Right.
And that water pipe goes under that bridge, and if it fails, 30 houses are out of water.
Correct,
The same
yeah.
thing with some of these other streets, like Otis and Lawrence Street.
Right, so I believe that the one on South Street was the one that was at risk of imminent failure.
Yeah.
And then I think there was, they were proactively going to replace a couple of the other ones as a result to make the utility crossing independent from the road crossing.
Yeah.
So it
I
wouldn't
did
be, it
rec-
wouldn't
I
be
recall
tied
him
to
saying
the.
that, yeah. Mhm. Questions, comments on 27? 28, cable access Hypercaster broadcast service server, $53,690, priority 2, funded from cable fees with no additional tax impact. Replacing the existing server, reaching its end of life in 2027. We heard this last night from Dana. Questions on that? Okay. Next page, 29, downtown streetscape improvements from the planning department, $1,850,000, a priority 4. to address stormwater deficiencies, increase public parking capacity, enhance pedestrian access, safety, and overall streetscape aesthetics, will be supplemented by anticipated grants applied for by the town, funded from free cash with no additional tax impact.
Yeah, so that language is in there for funded with free cash, but this was what I was saying would probably be my recommendation to target this one to be the debt authorization due to the,
Thank you.
But if we don't want to do that this year, then it won't get passed?
if
I thought we were trying to not incur any debt, so.
ready, we have that on the funding sources.
Okay?
So she was anticipating the project being 2.1 million as it was designed. She has a $250,000 grant that I believe she knows she's getting toward this. So that's why the shortfall of that 2.1 million was 1.85, and that's why she put forward the article for 1.85.
So it's,
There's potentially more grants at play.
yeah.
So I don't know if we're going to know by town meeting how much those grants are going to be.
So at this point, I'm going to digress a little bit. How much have we spent free cash? Going through what we've said, we haven't voted on it, but potentially, how much of free cash have we spent?
Okay, so I have my pages out of order. So of the articles, what had been proposed before I think the only thing that we've officially changed so far is, is being changed so far is probably the police cruiser article. So the requests had totaled
$3,252,000?
$3,252,000 from free cash. So that increases that that decreases that by 3.
So that's even before we talk about the streetscape.
Yeah, so the shortfall between these articles and free cash was 1.288.
Right. So,
So that's reduced now by $40,000 as a result of the change to the police article.
Since I'm kind of new to the grant world, can you tell me, will she only be able to get these grants if she also has a funding source from town meeting this year? Or could those grants then be brought forward for next year's town meeting, once we see how much money she's actually gotten?
I mean, there are grants that from time to time will have match requirements to them, like a local match, and that can be across the board, the amount of the match. I don't know the specifics of the grants that she's getting. I've asked her for some more specifics about when we would potentially know.
I was just wondering if maybe she would defer it to next year to see what other kinds of funding sources she can find.
It is the single largest line item we have.
I'd love to see it happen, but I don't think this is the year.
Going out to debt for this, considering the financial landscape we have, is challenging.
I think there's a lot of people that would love to see the downtown improvement and see some movement on it.
Right.
I think there were some interesting things that could have happened during this past year with some ARPA funds and stuff that then got taken away from the planning director, so we lost that chance to do that improvement. I think that a lot of people are not happy with the 6% increase in taxes in the last year, and then voting in the fire department. I do not see this as a project that they would be happy to see us purchase with free cash. Or do with free cash, that's my feeling.
Well, I think I made my statement pretty clear the other night. I'm in favor of the streetscape. I think it's the only way. Our downtown needs to be improved, the appearance of it. It's in our master plan. It has to happen, should happen, but not through free cash. This is something that townspeople should vote. If they want debt, they incur debt.
I don't even know if I want to incur debt this year for
No,
it.
well, that's,
It's only
the
another.
governing body
I mean,
determines that,
Only another
right?
1.8.
I don't know, it's just the idea of it, but,
No, I think.
because you can't really control this, that is doing it as a logical fiscal thing, because there's going to be so many emotions about it, and people coming in that are in support of it, and other people that didn't understand, and then it's in your tax bill,
That
but,
just happened at the last town meeting we had.
well, then it got a
Say
back
that.
up with a vote at the, at a national election, it is still passed, so it's a little bit different, but.
Yeah, but you don't, yeah, I know, but it's really unpopular to campaign against a fire station. No, I understand.
Any more comments on 29?
Yeah, I think I agree with all the comments that have been said. I mean, but at some point you have to determine what kind of investment you're making in the town. And it would be nice to see
I would love to see it, but I don't know
Yeah.
that this is the year. I'd love to hear more funding sources and then
Yeah.
defer it, but
Yeah.
that's just one person's opinion.
Yeah, one of the ideas behind suggesting it as a debt authorization would be, we don't actually have to borrow the money if the grants offset the amount, and then we can
Right.
be settled on what we're actually gonna borrow, and it gives us a longer timeline to determine that.
Okay.
If you have the
think
money
it's a
in
lot
hand, it's a
easier
lot
to
harder
get-
to get the grants, but.
It's a lot easier to get approval for elements that need the fund from free cash, because it's there, it's no impact to the community. This is a big ask, and a big ask should be through debt. I said the other night, we had fire trucks, $1 million. It's like, I don't think that should be free cash. That should be a debt exclusion, right? You borrow for that. You don't take away money from the small little things that you definitely need that are easy to take care of. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
All right. Moving on, School Department, Article 30. Technology, infrastructure, and equipment from the Northborough School Committee, $75,500, a priority 4, to replace classroom presentation systems related to technology, part of a 5-year plan to upgrade 1/5 of the classrooms at the K-8 schools, funded from free cash with no additional tax impact.
My comment on this, I'm not comfortable with what we heard at their presentation. I don't think there's a good plan. They didn't articulate a good plan on what they were gonna do. I understand it's nice to have whiteboards in all the rooms. My wife was a teacher. It's definitely a great asset. But we're asking for specifics from other departments on how to spend their money. I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it from them on most of the items they asked for.
Yeah, technology is a really important aspect of an educational system. I have to be honest and say that my husband and I supported technology, the first kinds of technology in this town that you would all be surprised about, like pulling the wires at the middle school and building a computer lab at the Lincoln Street School. So I support all of this, but I agree with you. I thought it was not a well-thought-out plan. I just think they were looking for the money and then they were going to make the plan. I would ask them to defer it for a year and come back with a better plan.
I'll just remind you that they had 75.5 in for each of
Yep.
the subsequent 4 years beyond this.
Yeah, yeah.
So they bumped it out.
They should take a year and think about it some more.
Yeah, come up with a clear, precise plan on what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do with year 1, this is what we're gonna do year 2.
As the chair, I'll reach out to Greg Martineau with that question.
Maybe they'll have a better sell of what they're doing.
Okay? And the same thing with Scott Charpentier. 31, Proctor Z and Lincoln Street playground repairs, $60,000, a priority 4, funded from free cash, needed to repair and replace 6 different features of the school's playgrounds that are in need of repair.
Well, again, I'm going to say here, they did not even present this to us. They said they were going to present their top 5, and so they never presented it. So then when we went back to look, I said, oh geez, what's this about? And I went and I watched it, their own meeting. And it appears to me that most of the bulk of this funding is going to the Proctor School. I don't know if it means they're putting in a new playground, or if they really do have some safety and code issues that they have to fix. So again, I think we need more info on this one.
Okay?
How do we help them better prepare? Like, I think I'm seeing a theme of this not having a lot of confidence, and maybe it's expectation setting, maybe it's skill set.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't disagree with any of the comments.
I think that what I saw a few years ago is that they really followed the template that was used by the town in presenting their capital projects, and this seems to be very different, and their thought process is very different.
I mean, you work closely with these departments?
Well, I know was some transition in the staff, so Keith Lavoie is the Assistant Superintendent for Operations, and he was preparing the capital plan. My comment is that a lot of the items that came into the capital plan were brand new. So
Yes.
it didn't match last year's capital plan. It was new projects. So, and then the numbers evolved while we were going through the process here, so it seemed like there was an evolution of the numbers as we were going
Yeah.
along. So that's the only comment I would make, is that
I can probably step out and say more, because I'm not afraid of having an opinion, but I think sometimes it's a political decision also, because you have board members that maybe don't understand the process quite so well, and then there are priorities of things that they'd like to see, and superintendents and assistant superintendents take those things to heart, as did the fire chief in regard to the equipment.
So there's a slide from their presentation, playground repairs to Proctor Z and Lincoln. After a summer 24 inspection, repairs required for Proctor Z and Lincoln playgrounds. Inspection highlighted replacement of structural components. There's a picture of some steps in the railway here that are rotted, stairs, steel stairs that are rotted, but no more details beyond that, and there's some other spreadsheet line items, but no more details beyond that.
Yeah, and you'll see on 32, it's about stuff at the Proctor School also.
So do we want to get more details on 30, 31, and 32?
I recall 32 and 33. I remember seeing the staircases, as long as that's really where it's going, because it's listing one school, a retaining wall, and stairs. I'm okay with those. I recall that stuff. It's the technology. The presentation was given, and I'm not going to interrupt a lot when they're presenting something, but I didn't have I wasn't very comfortable. I wasn't hearing, yeah, these are the 5 rooms we're going to take care of, and then next year we'll take care of these 5 rooms. It's like, well, we'll figure it out as we go along. That was my impression.
Well, and they
I'm
told
not
you it was
comfortable
for
with that.
5 schools, but Lincoln Street just, was overhauled. They're doing Peasley, so is it really for 5 schools? And they couldn't answer that. But for 32, I want you to know that I did go over to the Proctor School, and I took a look at those. They need the work. They need the work.
Okay. Funded from free cash, 105,000, priority 2. Any other comments, questions on 32, folks?
I'll drive by Z on the way home. 33.
I took a look at Z. They do-
Staircase replacements.
Thanks. I trust your judgment. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if you,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
this opposed to the other ones, I remember this is one isolated school and one isolated
Right.
area that they're proposing, and there's a photo in the
Yeah,
in the
there was.
presentation. So
Yeah.
there's much more specificity behind this article than I believe
Yeah,
there
and I
was,
went and I
as
looked.
opposed to your questions
Yep.
about
Yep.
the technology.
Yep.
All right. 34, roof replacement feasibility and schematic design. that's for the Z School. And the funds are needed to hire an owner's project manager, an OPM, and schematic design services funded from free cash is $100,000.
Now, this particular article, when they came before us, they hadn't gotten their notification from whether or not they were put into the accelerated program. I know that they have. I think details about that accelerated program would be very helpful for everybody to understand that what this is eventually going to cost them and that they have gotten into the program. So if we could get some of those details.
Yeah, I know we have the follow-up is next year, there's the majority of this project is shown in our capital plan for that year, where I think we have an anticipation of 50% from MSBA funding the project construction after the designs.
Yeah, and they, at the time, didn't have the approval, so we now know that they were in the accelerated program, which is
Correct.
another reason to say yes to this. But
Yeah.
I also think that in our description, we probably should say where this
Oh,
is
so
taking us.
you want to see us add some
Yes.
narrative
Yeah,
there?
so that
Okay.
people understand. And that we're not paying 100% for the roof when it gets ready to be, fixed.
So I'm assuming we were over our $3 million earlier, so we just added more stuff to it. So when it comes to debt, and Jason, you can correct me if I misstate something, the town can go to debt relatively easy as long as it doesn't go beyond 2.5, its budget.
Correct, yeah, so it's a little bit of like a depreciation expense or something like that for a business. It gets spread over multiple years,
Right.
so
But-
it's
so
just the interest cost that gets
The
added.
fire station, because it was such a big request, if there was over 2.5, it required multiple stages of approval to make sure, are you really sure you want to do this? And it received it. But if we're $1 million over, all right, again, I don't know what the 2.5 limit is, but whatever that, as long as we're under that number, we can incur debt without, just let the town meeting.
Yep.
Town meeting can vote for it.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Right, and the town has a debt policy as part of its financial policies. And over time, because we hadn't done any large projects for a long period of time since the Lincoln Street School was the last one. I think the school opened in somewhere between 2015 and 2017. I can't.
Right, 2016.
Yeah, 2016. So we issued debt in 2015 and 2016. So those were the large issues that we had. So we've been, paying that down over a long period of time. We're coming to the end of, the senior center and the library before that were the large projects before that have tapered down to be much lower as
So do we
a
have any
percentage.
items that will be coming off the debt in the next year or so, 2 years?
Well, there's I can look this up, the exact time.
What's the high school? Is it gone?
2027 is the last year, the ad-rent project of the high school. But they'll be issuing debt for the complex, which will be a shorter term, but smaller amount overall.
What's the complex?
The athletic complex at the high school.
$7 million
That was-
project?
We already, you issued debt, we already did it.
Yeah, so this is the effect of debt authorization. Something could be authorized, we could build it, we could issue short-term debt for a number of years, and then once we start paying the principal payment, people are wondering why their taxes went up, and it was built 5 years ago.
Oh, that's the mechanism we used?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
this
pay
was
down
this
principal,
was through
just
the
interest.
this was through the region.
Yep.
They built the athletic complex. It's about an $8 million project. I believe there may still be work to do. I'm not sure, but
They added an amenities building, but I don't think that they got it all done what they wanted to.
okay. Well, as the project was done, they issue short-term debt, so they have money to pay the bills, but there's not a true impact until we start making principal payments. We're not making the principal payments too, to be clear. It's the region that.
We're just getting assessed
Yep.
for it. yeah.
Yep.
So we authorized, as the town of Northborough authorized, that they would pay the debt assessment when it came. So that will increase, but I think they are timing it so that the ad rent project, which is exempt from Proposition 2.5, whereas as opposed to the only difference is our levy capacity to pay it. It's tax impact either way.
Yep.
If that answers your question.
All right, any other comments on 34? No? We're on to the community preservation articles, starting with 38 on page 58. Affordable housing project at Colonial Village, $880,000 is the request, funded from the CPA unreserved fund. 4 handicapped accessible units on the first floor, a 2-story garden-style apartment at Colonial Village campus. You heard John Campbell present this a few weeks ago.
I have a question on how this works. These units will be, obviously, they'll be rented at a below market rate or free?
It's for veterans.
Yeah, it's a reduced rate or is it free?
It's not free. It's a reduced rate, is my understanding.
So I guess my question, where does that revenue go?
To the Northborough Housing Authority, the NHA.
It does,
Yeah.
goes to NHA.
It's leased from the NHA and the revenue
Yeah.
comes back to them.
Yeah, so the CPA can support affordable housing projects that are not owned by the town.
Yeah.
So this is, Housing Authority is obviously a separate entity from the town. It's a quasi-state program, so they have public meetings and so forth, but I believe that the veterans housing, I could be completely wrong. They would go to the Housing Authority and be on a waiting list to get housing, and subsidized housing. And there would be a sliding scale of some sort based on income and resources they have. So I don't think that it
What
would
do
be
I think I heard
free.
John say? There's a lottery. I think I recall say there's a lottery.
Yeah, so somebody would apply at the Housing Authority, and
Right.
there'd be they probably have more demand than housing available.
I believe you said today there's a waiting list of 2,000 names.
Oh,
That's
I
quite
don't
a
think
bit.
we'll have enough. I
Pardon?
said I don't think we'll have enough room for all of them.
I mean, this is only 8 units. This is the second largest capital line item, by the way. Any further questions, comments on that?
I just want to remind anybody that's listening that this comes off of the surcharge. That's not really free cash. It's not a debt. It's the surcharge from the CPA funds. Okay.
Right.
All right, 39, CPC Conservation Fund, $200,000 request. They significantly drew down their reserves for the purchase of 432 Whitney Street last calendar year. And the balance is currently about $220,000, and they want to maintain a healthy fund balance between ensuring the town can act quickly and competitively when future land acquisition opportunities arrive. This would be funded from new CPA revenues. And as Susan just said, part of your tax bill goes into this bucket.
Part of your tax bill, not the surcharge?
The surcharge, excuse me. The
Surcharge.
Sorry, John, yeah.
I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to that.
Yeah. Or understand where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where you get the podium talk that, we get 100% matching or some matching mechanism, so, but then you look at the way we use our money, and they're not great investments like White Cliffs and things like that, so it's good to get,
I think the matching right now is like maybe 35%,
Yeah.
you said, yeah.
and not recommending this, I want to understand the way this works. If everything did not pass the town meeting that was proposed by using the CPA funds, what would the tax impact be on Northborough residents?
Well, it's a nuanced discussion because, as Susan was saying, it's a surcharge on
Yeah.
your tax bill.
Yeah.
So you're going to pay the surcharge whether the money gets spent or not.
Or just go to reserves?
It would, they're legally required to put 10% for the core purposes into affordable housing, historic resources, and open space. Those
Yep.
3 core purposes, they have to spend 10% of their estimated revenues every year.
Yep.
So they have to spend or reserve the money. So they could vote reserves. And we've had this in the past with CPA articles where something appeared to be controversial and it was going to meet the 10% requirement for, say, historic resources, which is what, White Cliffs fell under. If it were unpopular, they may have like a follow-up article, if it didn't pass, to appropriate 10% of the revenues into the reserve to meet the requirement of the law.
And like, do I see, when I see CPC Conservation Fund of $200,000, is that an example of just building our reserves up where that money just hasn't been allocated to anything, or is it required by the 10% language?
Well, it could qualify for the open space, as an open space acquisition.
Yeah.
Acquisition.
Yeah.
So the money gets, sorry, my mouth is getting dry. So the money would go into the conservation fund, and the benefit of it being there would be that they could act on an open space acquisition without going back to town meeting, because general town meeting's approval is required. So if we were going to, an opportunity to purchase a property came forward, we would have to schedule a town meeting in order to get authorization. The difference here is for conservation land, it could be purchased.
They're trying to build their bank balance up again
we
because they
spent-
just made a big expenditure out of it.
Yeah, no, that's my interpretation.
Yeah.
Just for test for understanding. So we go and we spend nothing, then the CP, and everything gets not approved. Then the CPA revenues have to be allocated into a general fund that can be applied among affordable housing, CPC, conservation land, these sort of buckets, or can just be in a general fund that gets allocated later.
Yeah, so beyond the 10% allocations that go into the specific buckets,
Yeah.
the rest of it goes into the CPA's unreserved, which
Unreserved.
is similar to a free cash.
Yeah,
It
with-
could be used for any one of the purposes.
Any one of the purposes, and I mean, it's kind of a fixed amount. Like, they get the revenue, it's a matter how they allocate it.
Yeah, I think they've committed to trying to allocate it across all of
Yeah, for sure.
the purposes,
Yeah.
like equally. But the requirement is 10%.
Okay.
So the rest of it goes into, and the CPC is conscious of what they've allocated it to over its history.
Yep, and all these conversations and decisions have no, as opposed to if everything was denied here, it would have a dramatic impact on our tax rate, the tax revenue residents pay in taxes. None of this residents would pay the same amount of taxes regardless of what's approved or denied here. It just matters where it goes.
Right.
Yep, okay,
Correct.
cool.
Correct.
Yep, thank you. I want to make sure I understood it.
Yeah.
Okay. Article 40 is under $25,000, so I think ultimately we're going to pass on this. And ultimately, when we get to Article 44, it's the same thing. So that says no, it probably should say pass or something like that.
Right.
We did pass on
Not required.
1 or 2 articles last year, I think.
Can we at least write in it that I love this one?
Which one?
40.
40? Where's this gonna be?
On the
talking
town
about-
common, I was
yeah,
told.
sounds-
Oh, cool.
There's a space there, they're gonna put it somewhere there. All
I'm
right.
just kidding.
You don't like it?
No, I said that writing, I love it.
Oh, I wasn't sure, okay, I wasn't sure if you loved
I
it or
didn't
not,
want
but
that
just kidding.
notation.
Yeah.
Get her a
No,
bumper
I
sticker. All right, 41. White Cliffs Design, $93,940. This is the first of a 2-phase project to do more preservation of the White Cliffs Mansion. Includes hiring an architect and a licensed site professional to develop construction documents and oversee the removal of the non-historic 1960s addition, the back of the building, basically, which are causing moisture and mold damage and threatening the building's historic integrity. Phase 2, estimated at $625,000 to $700,000, will cover demo and construction, including temporary watertight infill to protect the structure. According to the DBVW Architects 2020 study, these additions pose the greatest risk to the mansion. So this is basically to tighten it up because it's a sick building. To be funded from new CPA revenues. Questions?
think it's going to have a hefty,
Debate?
yeah.
I found it
I-
interesting. I wasn't able to make this one, so I watched what was presented to Mitch, and Mitch got on for a brief moment. John did not feel confident in this, and Mitch, I was very surprised, came in and said, "I've never seen anything get denied. The town made the decision to purchase it." So I thought very strong. I think there's a lot of debate on having White Cliffs, and sometimes the town meeting, this happens, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, this one I would expect to be.
Lively?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see a plan for White Cliffs before expending more money on it.
Short of leaving it and letting it totally crumble in, we've got to do something with it.
We should,
So that's.
yeah, you can
what we're
leave it and
trying
let
to
it,
do.
you can leave it and let it crumble in.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what use is it now?
Well, here,
mean,
I get it, but, you got to spend money to make money
Yeah.
sometimes. And so we've got to spend the money to tighten it up. It's going to be even harder to unload if we let it cave in on itself on this particular area. But I'm not so sure that, people will come along, will spend this money for this, what is it actually called?
It's a study to
It's a
figure out how
study,
we're
okay.
going to
Yeah.
cleave off the back end and button it up.
Yeah, I don't know that then the next year or the following year, anybody will pony up that money to
Right.
actually do it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So you kind of make a decision, what do you think is the best thing to do
Yeah.
here?
This will be probably a lively discussion.
I mean, and it's a lot of money. They got the debt service, and we got the acquisition cost, and we got money, we're doing it, and you asked a lot of good questions about what's the maintenance cost when you look at different departments that come in and do things at White Cliffs, and the market has told us that there's not a buyer that's interested in it, and I'm not sure the town as a renovator is a great strategy, so I think we're in this tough spot where we've got this thing we bought, it's on a hill, it's there.
If we had an economic development committee that was looking at this and how could they bring people in to show some interest, and I think we'd all feel a lot better about fixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, you totally need another perspective with a different mandate, bringing stuff for people to look at, because the market's not going to do it on its own, and it's got to be something, I mean, I think we were all at the meeting. I thought, yeah, Meredith was very impressive, and it doesn't, yeah, it's just, you just got to take some steps.
Someone's got to
I
have
think,
the vision, but
For what
It's not
it's
gonna
worth,
be cheap.
there's two other non-financial articles on the warrant too. There's one article that provides for authorizing the town to sell the White Cliffs. And then there's a second article that would be to authorize the select board to negotiate a
negotiated
TIF
TIF, yeah.
Yeah.
surrounding it.
Yeah.
So
I think,
do you think that they'll ask to just defer this study?
well, I think this work is probably necessary regardless it may be part of the marketing.
We're going to have to
it.
pay $700,000 to take that part off before somebody will buy it if there's people of interest out
Well, that
there?
may be part of the calculus to,
Then we have to spend more money to get rid of
I
it.
mean, we're assuming someone values the building in which it's today, and they see it. I mean, that's a pretty big assumption. Is no one is I'm not involved in these conversations, but I haven't even heard a lowball offer. Like no one's coming to buy
No
for
idea what
a
it's worth.
dollar.
I have no idea what it's worth.
Yeah, I think it's hard to tell, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think the investment was, I mean, it's a very large investment, and it was to acquire it so that the mansion could be preserved, and that was
Right.
yeah.
the intent.
Right.
So that's what carried, and
Too bad there's not a national mansion preservation like they have in Newport, like something that could go in, if these are important historic landmarks, and they very well may be, that there's nothing that takes the burden off the town to put the vision of preserving some of these buildings.
Good news, bad news, if you own a building that's designated as a National Historic Place,
Then you're stuck.
you're stuck.
Yeah.
Francis Tavern in Lower Manhattan, great restaurant, great bar, been there since the 1700s. The guy who owned it had to basically sell it because the onus of maintaining it and replacing the roof exactly the way it was a slate roof and everything else, it was prohibitive costs.
That makes sense.
Especially in Manhattan to do that.
Yeah.
So it comes with, some serious issues.
Good point.
All right. Anything else on that 41? 42, the White Cliffs Debt Service, $166,575. This is the seventh of 10 payments to pay the debt service on the purchase of
Is
this.
this interest only, or are we paying down the debt?
Oh, no, we've been paying down the debt. It was a 10-year
Yeah.
schedule that we adopted.
And this is from CPA revenues. Any questions on that? 43, CPA Administrative Fund, $42,000 to maintain the annual administrative fund funded from CPA revenues. Questions there?
No.
No?
I would
40
just like to say something about this particular committee in town. It's really filled with a lot of very unique people that have been very active in the town recently and for many years, and I think they give a lot of thoughtful time
Yes,
to their
absolutely.
departments and their requests that they make, and I have a lot of respect for the work that they do.
Yep. And the last Article 44 is the Northborough 250th anniversary commemoration of the Revolutionary War. Funds to support historical programs, events, and community activities, ensuring the anniversary is properly recognized. It's, again, under $25,000, it's $15,000, funded from free cash.
That can't be
And-
funded from CPA? Is
I
it because
think
it's
it-
a program? It's a historical program, right?
To be honest with you, I didn't know about this request until I started reviewing the warrant. So that wasn't part of my calculations.
That's a good catch. I assumed it wasn't free cash.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I know there's specific
But I-
criteria to meet
Yeah.
CPA funds. Just curious.
When did they ever come forward and ask for anything for free cash?
I don't know the history of it exactly, but I know in the past, the town has funded, it funded its 250th the anniversary of the town from, it put money, there's, and I don't know if this falls within that authorization that a town can create a celebration fund for anniversaries. And that was used a number of years ago where money was allocated from free cash to the 250th celebration. There were donations, there was fundraising type activities that flowed through the fund. And maybe, Ken, you're familiar with that type of fund.
Yeah, we did it in Upton.
Yeah, so at the end of it, the money got returned back to the general fund and I think they purchased the signs, the Welcome to Northborough signs at the end of that, if you see that.
I do.
I'm just keying on the words historical.
Yeah.
You know, and,
Yeah.
okay, if it's historical, when that's what we're focusing on, if they're gonna have reenactment here, can CPC funds be used for that?
Yeah,
I don't know the answer.
Impressive.
I think maybe the opportunity passed for them to put a CPA application in during the timeline of
Yeah.
when they have to make their recommendations, but, yeah,
Can you,
it's a
Ben,
good question.
check
I
that and
don't,
clarify that, please?
yeah, I don't know too much about it, to be honest with you.
Do you know what we pay for, like, the tree lighting?
The annual event,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just curious, I'm trying to scope this thing, what it looks like. If is it like something like that, or is it like something different? It's hard, it's like to
Well,
your
I'm just
point.
saying, historical events, I'm assuming they'll have reenactors here or something.
Well, that
Could
is
be.
costly.
Could
Yeah,
be.
maybe you're bringing them in.
I mean,
All right.
I think the 250th celebration, where there's all kinds of events that flowed through that fund, I think it was in the neighborhood of $40,000 of the expenditures, but the town's, off the top of my head, I can't remember the free cash allocation, but I think the town was made whole as a result of the fundraising and the event fees or whatever went into the fund.
The last three pages, 61 through 63, is a recap. The article numbers have to be updated. The amounts and the funding sources have to be updated. I think we changed one or two priorities, that'll be updated. I had added this column on criticality, it sounds like we're not going to do that, so we'll take that out.
Yep.
Jason, we'll slice that.
Okay.
And then
Yeah,
ultimately,
so
when we vote on
to be
this-
clear, these articles aren't right. I mean, the article numbers aren't right.
Yeah, yeah.
The only thing I can ask for is when we have our next meeting and we're voting, if we could have a running tally of how our free cash status is based on what we're approving.
Okay.
What, everything hit, The Article 20, the ambulance replacement, I thought that was, is that borrowing? I thought it was coming out of a fund that wasn't borrowed, there was a revenue fund.
No, it would be a borrowing authorization, but the debt service would be funded from the ambulance fund.
Okay,
So they purchase an ambulance every 3 years.
yeah,
So the fund doesn't have $550,000 in it set aside to purchase this ambulance. It has 1/3 of that,
oh, I see,
so,
I got it.
or 1/3 plus the amount that they'd need for interest.
That's no impact to taxpayers.
No impact to taxpayers, yeah.
So we're going to meet on Monday night. We're going to take our votes. John, how many of our members are going to be here?
I'm assuming we'll all be here. I know Stockland was traveling, he gets back tonight. He advised me he will be here Monday, and I believe Rob did too.
Okay, that's good
John,
news.
you're available, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so.
I have a 5
it's-
PM start on that.
Yeah,
My phone.
correct, that's correct, yeah. The beginning of this report, there's some dialogue with a little more detail. We'll double-check that. Take out the criticality box on page 51, Jason. And then we've got to add, we want to add a column for each of these tables, starting on page 52, in terms of funding source. So if we add that column, I think it was Ken that mentioned it, should we slice off the dot point that's in the box? Ken, to your suggestion, adding a column on funding source to each of these tables?
Yeah,
Should we slice the dot point off of each item because we're doing that? So otherwise,
just
it's
wanna
the
be
department,
very-
redundancy department.
Yeah, I just want to be very clear, so if somebody's quickly looking at this, they can see, and we could clearly say recommended funding source.
Got it.
So there's no, because that's what we are, we're a recommending board,
All right.
right, or committee.
Jason, if you can get an update on this to me, I'll double-check against my notes.
Sure.
I will reach out to Greg Martineau regarding Articles 30, 31, and 34 for clarification on the technology infrastructure, some details behind that, and then the playground repairs and the MSBA funding for the Z project, the peaked roof project. Reach out to Scott on language on the 1-ton, the usage of the 1-ton truck.
And does Jonathan want to go over?
Well, he
Yeah.
said so. When he comes back, I'll corroborate
Okay.
with him.
Does anybody else want to go over?
And the question is, it's got to be between now and Monday.
I know, I understand that. I'm just saying, does anybody else want to go over?
I was
I'm
just there
good.
today dropping off something.
Well, thank you, John
We're
and
not done
Jason,
yet. We're
for
not
all
done
of that
yet.
work.
We gotta adjourn.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
thank you for all that work,
Oh,
both of
thanks,
you,
Jason.
you
Oh,
know?
no, thank
You're just like
thank you.
rushing around trying to get everything in place.
yeah.
So
Any other business, folks?
as we look forward to next year, can we start earlier?
In the season.
My hope is that we'll have a town administrator still in place through the fall.
Please, you're not questioning that, are you?
No, I'm pretty sure. I mean,
Fair enough. It just,
So-
I think, for your benefit and our benefit, starting earlier, if we take to heart what the people who presented to us, we start right after the town meeting, then they should have all their information done, and they should be able to come to us.
Especially if you're putting together a 10-year view of this. You go dust it off.
Yeah, it's nice to have the 10-year view, but my focus is on this year.
Right.
In front of me, and that's, I guess my point is that the sooner we can get this done, the sooner we can have quality dialogue, the sooner we can get a report to the board and to the town administrator who set the warrant.
Right.
When is the date that your free cash is certified?
Well, it depends. I mean, it would matter when we close our books. And generally, depending on how complicated the year is and, what we're trying to work through, this year was somewhat of a rush because we needed to get the free cash certified in time for it to be appropriated just for the,
Do you
this-
want
the water, the sewer fund
taking a tour?
from the sewer
Yeah.
free cash. So we rushed to get it certified in September this year, or I think
Okay.
it was certified at the
So
beginning of October.
September was a rush.
Yeah.
Okay. So when does it kind of sort of really happen?
Well, it could be between September and October.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because when I first served on this back in 2000, we always started in October, the end of October into November, and if we had anything left over, we came in January, because then appropriations picked up the winter
I don't know
months.
if you have a time and date.
That's,
Interesting, okay.
I mean, I know that's different than what you're doing, but it would be helpful. Gives you more time.
I think even if we just start in December, right? That gives us, free cash on the
Yeah,
late side is October. We start in December or end of November, at least having the discussions, and then we're not running around with our head cut off trying to.
The key thing is getting the department heads in front of us and getting them thinking about this and starting to get their ducks in a row.
But they have supposedly they have a 10-year plan, so it's just bringing it forward.
Right.
And updating that plan, and that should be at least not a heavy lift, I don't
Yeah,
think.
I think it shouldn't be a surprise what comes forward next year, because it should be an advancement of what's in the capital plan from the
Right.
prior year.
Right.
I think what we've seen this year is there's been a lot of uncertainty with the numbers, and then a lot of changing and things that have been inserted that are brand new that weren't in the plan last year. So that leads to a lot of
At least, what, 3 or
administrative
4 from
work,
the schools?
At least.
But that's been my experience for the departments in general, is that if I would take last year's and look at what was in 2026, it's not representative of what we're talking about.
I understand, like, with the DPW, there may be a water area or a street area that needs, this is an emergency that came up, and we have to clearly understand that. But hopefully, with the long-term planning we asked for, that it is just, let's bring this forward, let's see if we're on target.
Yep.
As of today, there's no emergencies, we don't have any infrastructure failures,
I don't know if the committee has any interest in it for next year, but I really like when some of us can serve as liaisons to special projects that are going on. I think that we can give interesting insight to committees like that, and we can certainly bring back a wealth of information to this particular committee. So I'm hoping that we'll think that that's a standard practice that we do, and I would love to see if we do this, that we have in our agenda, every time we meet, maybe there won't be any, but liaison reports, so that they're not just gaining the information for themselves, but they're sharing it with us, so we all become educated on what's going on
Do
out
we
there.
have any examples where one of us is well, you were the liaison for the fire station, maybe an exception for that.
Scott is the liaison to the Peasley Building.
Peasley Building,
Yeah.
any other
No,
liaison?
That's it, because that's really the only big projects right now.
Yeah.
And those are ad hoc projects as opposed to standing committees.
Yeah, so that's why we can easily appoint somebody to that and then go and they serve.
What do we think those might be next year or this year? I mean, I'm thinking of the projects that aren't trucks and cars and.
Well, these have been big projects. So in the past, I guess Lincoln Street, I don't know if it's about the library, that's before my time, but obviously big projects where there's a lot of moving parts and there's a couple-year time frame. So, you want some financial ears listening to what's going on and potentially contributing or asking the right questions.
I don't even think the Blake Street project is one that we would need to be a liaison to, but something larger.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what we were presenting to, what would be categorized as that.
You never know what's going to happen with the White Cliffs.
Large-scale projects?
Yeah. White Cliffs, I guess?
Maybe.
Maybe.
You just never
Yeah, it's-
know.
Depends on what goes on with it, but if somebody buys it, then it's no longer the town's. So it's to be determined.
Even
Yeah,
if we
I
develop
like
an
the concept.
economic development, and if the town has an economic development committee, we can't serve on other committees, but we can liaise. And whether or not that's acceptable and it meets the standards, there's a wonderful place for us to go.
Yep, we need to get that formed.
All right, two last things. Next meeting, Monday, here, 5 PM, to go through hopefully the last or penultimate version of the report and vote. And if there's any small wordsmithing that needs to be done, we can have a vote to have Jason or I finish that. And then there's an optional meeting the following Monday, the 24th, with the Select Board. Appropriations, is it? Are they in here
Yeah,
too?
it's a joint hearing with on the budget between the
Right.
appropriations.
It's optional, but it's here, and I think there's a Zoom also. So Monday, the 24th, I think that's like 6 or 6:30.
And that's when our report is due, right?
That's correct. All right.
So last year I was naive, I attended and thought the select board would ask questions to the financial planning committee, and they didn't. Which is the reason I think this committee is symbolic in nature. Is there an expectation that we have engagement with the select board, or is it basically, thank you for your work, I'm not gonna ask you questions, and here's how you voted?
I think it's in the
think so.
charter and
I don't think so.
expectation that they meet that, at that meeting.
Yeah, I just don't remember, I was on there and I was excited and,
Yeah.
and just didn't have that, I was
My
surprised.
impression is they expect appropriations and us to do the work, to go through this, and to ensure that what is being presented is cogent and appropriate and, within the fiscal guidelines that we have in the town.
And maybe if it plays out, there are hard no's on things, maybe that'll express some dialogue, but I'm really disappointed that 3-2s don't get discussed.
Yeah.
Even at the fire station meeting, we never discussed it, we were kind of said, you can't talk, and so those things are kind of, like, that would be interesting from, maybe set expectations, select board, what our role is, would be helpful if I should prioritize that over something else. Because I'm happy to do this work, but if it's not going to be something that I'm engaged in, we all have better use of our time, right? And then the other thing, John recommended I reach out to Scott Charpentier to see the trucks. If anyone's interested, I can extend that invitation. I'm away Thursday through Sunday, so I might not.
Get a date and a time, just email everybody and,
Yeah.
you can show up.
Yeah, I was can ask.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
sounds good.
include Rob and Scott on there. Jason, you're welcome too if you want to see trucks.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been over there before.
I'm sure you have.
But I don't, maybe I'll come.
There's a gate now. I don't know if I can get in. I might have to climb it.
Yeah.
No, they
I mean,
haven't put the
I
gate
haven't
in, they've
seen
got
the
a
gate.
fence. but,
Okay,
yeah.
gotta figure that out.
To your point, though, about the joint meeting, I do believe with the select board that we have right now, they're very open. And they're very open to comments and questions. And so I think that if you went and they obviously realized you were part of financial planning, that they would listen to anything that you had to say if you raised your hand, I think there's.
Oh, I don't
input.
feel like I want to get acknowledged. And I'm brand new to how towns work. Right?
Yeah.
I'm in the real world usually. And so like when I kind of expect a little bit more, I'm thinking myself as a leader and how I lead and how I engage. I expect the leadership in the town, and it was naive. So it's not even a criticism. It's just like, okay, I get it. That's the piece.
Okay, well, one more thing. Laura Zeiton has been the current liaison from the select board with us.
Yeah.
And she occasionally comes back to me and/or appropriations to say, is there anything important you want to bring to the attention of the select board? And she's been here from time to time, and I'm sure she watches also online. So their interest, they want to know what we're doing.
I think so, but I feel like I've seen Lisa and Julianne more than I've seen, I don't right.
Once or
yeah.
twice, but
Yeah.
yeah, not a lot.
But, I mean, just in general, so,
Maybe I'll have a discussion with Mitch.
if it's appropriate. And
Yeah, let me see what he says, okay? All right.
I think the only thing we have to worry about is having a quorum there, just sit far apart.
Do we need a quorum to talk at the select board meeting, or we act as
Amongst
residents?
ourselves.
You can talk as an individual.
Yes.
But you can't represent the board.
Yes.
Yeah, so we probably didn't have a quorum, I think. Were you on that? I was on Zoom when last year, when we did it, it was on Zoom.
Which one, John?
When the select board had the financial planning committee, when they're going through the warrant articles.
I don't remember.
Okay,
I think I was on it.
yeah,
I probably was, but I just don't remember.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if we had a quorum, it's more just yeah.
All right, I'll talk to Mitch. Move to adjourn.
And there is some, I'm sorry, but there is some value to the town meeting recommendation. I mean, the moderator will defer to each one of the committees and ask what their recommendations were. And if it's not unanimous, there's from time to time, you could ask what what were the reasons why, this was not.
But that's
unanimous.
where I get confused, because that's exactly what happened at our last town meeting, it was 3-2, and I was confused because I thought that was going to happen. And then, a resident asked, and then the town moderator did not enable that discussion, and we moved on and were presented to, so,
She ran the clock. She asked the question, she ran the clock, and basically he said you ran out of time.
it was early on in the process when Julianne answered, and we're gonna, so, in general, the question.
She ran the clock.
Yeah.
And he basically said, you're out of time. And then there was no one else who came up to bring some further comments in.
And I think it's probably confusing for people, because it was asked, and whether the clock was running or not, it was asked, and the expectation would be that you would answer it. So I think that's a confusing, I was prepared, I was like, oh, and then it was awkward, because there's a lot of running around and presenting, and there wasn't dialogue. So the town meeting to me, it's not part of our culture on how we talk about, and I think that 3-2s are interesting. I think they're worthwhile. 3-2 is an interesting number. 0-4 or 0-6, whatever, is a very interesting number too. Unanimous, probably not as interesting, even, so I don't know, that's just, these are just observations about how we work together.
Yeah.
I think that the expectation is that when you're in public and you're speaking as a board, whatever, even if you were a dissenting vote, you represent what the committee voted on, because that is what the committee put forward. Now, if somebody asks you straight out what your opinion is,
Yeah.
that's always been a funny place to be in.
I've seen this at a select board meeting, and Mitch had said, it would be, let me phrase this correctly, that if you dissented or voted no on something, he would give you the option of answering yes, answering the question. So it went through the chair back to a specific person.
Okay.
As far as what you think about serving on this board, I will give you my perspective about it. And I've been on an elected board, I've been on a school committee and everything else. What I think about a board like this is we're advisory, but we're expected to ask very pointed, important questions.
Yeah.
And work very closely with the finance director to see what the direction is and what are the smart moves. And then we have our own independent ways of looking at things and opinions. But the bottom line is, we help to build trust in the community because they see different people asking the different questions, and the answers don't change. They are the answers. So I think we have done a great job this season.
This is a much more productive dialogue than last year.
Yeah, well, we were so rushed.
Here, John, you guys literally were thrown to the fire.
And we're
We had
new.
Weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, and we had weeks to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So,
mean,
yeah, the
this
process
is much
sucked.
more
The
productive.
process sucked last year.
I think it can
No question.
get better, especially if we learn to work, if more of us stay for a year or two and we work together like this, I think people will start to understand what collaboration is all about, because I don't think all of us came in here with the same perspective or the same way of thinking about things.
Right.
Now, when you walk or drive around this town, do you look at the town with a different pair of eyes based on what you've learned in the last year?
Yeah, I get really sad when I see the thank you sign for the fire station. It makes me really sad for what we've done in the future of the town. So that really affects me a lot. I think and it actually does. I go to Wegmans and it makes me sad. I drive by White Cliffs, that makes me sad. So yeah, I think I do. I look at some of the direction we've taken from the town and some of the way the town hasn't run as a true, as a true transparent. It does make me sad. So yeah, it definitely has affected the way I look at the town.
Okay, all right.
Hopefully, if you're here for more discussions about White Cliffs and where it goes, you'll be able to
Yeah,
add some
totally.
great value to what
Yeah, and I think
happens
that
there.
now we can do something about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion at 7:08, we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay, meeting is adjourned at 7:08 PM. 2 hours and 8 minutes, just like last night.
Nice and efficient.
7:02, sorry.